So you probably heard of USS Enterprise and her battles, but guess what ship was there also? They kept the Big East safe during the Battle of the Eastern Solomons. My home state's very own USS North Carolina. Yes, there are other historic boats to mention, but this is my home state ship, and I'm proud of its accomplishments in World War II. USS North Carolina is the lead battleship of the North Carolina class battleships built prior to World War II. Her design was limited due to the Washington Treaty System, limiting her displacement and armament. But good old American ingenuity, we made her a badass ship anyway. With 9 16-inch guns sitting on triple turrets, which we used a clause in the London Naval Treaty to make this happen, because it was originally agreed on 12 14-inch guns on quad turrets, but hey, bigger lead, bigger devastation. She was set to be built in 1937 and completed in August 1941 before the U.S. entered World War II just 4 months before December 7, 1941. Originally pulling out of New York Harbor where she earned her nickname Showboat, she was originally sent to counter a possible sortie from Germany's battleship Tirpitz, but it didn't happen. So she was transferred to the Pacific, where she joined Task Force 16, sailing alongside the legendary aircraft carrier Enterprise, along with cruisers, destroyers, and a whole lot of American firepower. It's August 7th, 1942. U.S. Marines stormed the beaches to capture an airfield the Japanese were building. That airfield would soon become famous as Henderson Field. Aircraft carriers were the most valuable ships in the Pacific, and they were also the biggest targets. So North Carolina's job was simple: stand guard and make sure nothing touched Enterprise. And when Japanese aircraft came screaming in, North Carolina's radar picked them up first. Suddenly, the sky filled with dive bombers. Enterprise pushed her engines to 30 knots, trying to outrun the attack. North Carolina fell back about 4,000 yards behind her, guns ready. 7 Japanese dive bombers peeled off and dove straight towards the battleship. And imagine that. 7 planes screaming down, sirens railing, and bombs dropping, while all in a complex situation. But the gunners aboard North Carolina were ready. The sky exploded with anti-aircraft fire, shells bursting everywhere, and not a single bomb hit. The battleship came through the attack untouched, but the war around her was just getting started. Then came the Battle of the Eastern Solomons. Carrier versus carrier. Planes fighting miles above the ocean while ships below blasted anything that got close. North Carolina's gunners went to work again. By the end of the battle, they claimed 7 to 14 Japanese aircraft shot down, and even Admiral Chester Nimitz himself said the ship's 5-inch guns were incredibly effective at breaking up Japanese attacks. But the ocean had another threat lurking below: submarines. On September 15, 1942, Japanese submarine I-19 fires a spread of torpedoes, and 6 torpedoes rivet through the water, which 2 slammed into the U.S. wall, sealing her fate. And an oil torpedo hits the destroyer O'Brien, and one of them keeps running 5 miles away if it finds North Carolina. The torpedo smashes into her hull 20 feet below the waterline, ripping open a massive hole in her hull. Rudder floods in, and the battleship lifts to port, and 5 sailors were killed instantly. But here's the incredible part. The crew fights the flooding fast. Counter-flooding stabilizes the ship, and within minutes, North Carolina is back underway at 25 knots, still protecting the fleet. Meanwhile, the carrier wall sinks, and O'Brien eventually breaks apart from the damage. North Carolina survives. After repairs at Pearl Harbor, North Carolina returned to the fight, and now she had company, her sister ship, the battleship USS Washington. The 2 giants formed a powerful surface force protecting American carriers' supply convoys around Guadalcanal. They escorted troops, protected transports, and stood ready if the Japanese fleet showed up. Then came the island-hopping campaigns: Tara, Guadalcanal, the Marshalls, and then the Gilberts. North Carolina escorted carriers launching massive air raids across the Pacific. She bombarded enemy positions, even sank a cargo ship during the attack on Roy Namoa, and then came one of the biggest strikes of the war. The U.S. fleet smashed the Japanese base at Turk Lagoon. Ships burned, airfields destroyed, and aircraft wiped out. And by the end of the raid, 39 Japanese ships sunk, hundreds of aircraft destroyed, and North Carolina was right there guarding the carriers the entire time. Then came one of the most famous air battles in naval history, the Battle of the Philippine Sea. It's June 1944. The Japanese fleet launched wave after wave of aircraft, but American radar saw them coming. North Carolina and the other battleships opened fire as the planes approached, above them. American fighters tore into the Japanese formation, and the result? What pilots would later call the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. Hundreds of Japanese planes destroyed, 3 Japanese carriers sunk, and North Carolina herself shot down 2 aircraft during the battle, and from that moment forward, Japan's carrier aviation never recovered. But the war still had teeth. In December 1944, the fleet sailed straight to one of the worst storms ever recorded at sea, Typhoon Cobra. Massive waves, hurricane-force winds, and 3 destroyers lost. But North Carolina rode out the storm. Another day survived. Then came the brutal fighting of Okinawa. Kamikazes began diving into American ships. Suicide pilots trying to take down the fleet with them. North Carolina's guns thundered again. She shot down multiple kamikaze aircraft during the battle, but in the chaos of battle, tragedy struck. One American ship accidentally hit North Carolina with a 5-inch shell, killing 3 sailors and 44 wounded. And even in victory, war always takes its toll. By the final months of the war, North Carolina was helping launch airstrikes directly against Japan itself. Planes hitting Tokyo, airfields destroyed, ships sunk, and the war machine closing in that finally, on August 15, 1945, Japan surrendered. Because we dropped the sun on them motherfuckers twice. After years of fighting across the Pacific, North Carolina sailed into Tokyo Bay as part of the occupation force. Her war was over. When the numbers were counted, the ship had earned 15 battle stars, more than any other U.S. battleship in the war. 10 crew members killed, 67 wounded, but she survived every battle. She now sits in Wilmington, North Carolina as a floating museum after being saved by North Carolinians from the scrapyard in 1961. Now, I was there about 20 years ago, and let me tell you, walking that ship, stepping foot on that kind of history is something you'll never forget. So like and subscribe for more forgotten history of Matchstick, and tell me what your favorite aircraft, ship, or tank in history is in the comments below. And I'll see you guys next time.